Have you ever met someone who talks like they know everything, and yet when you actually check, they don't know much at all? Maybe it's a coworker who confidently explains the correct way to do something you've been doing for years, or that relative at a family gathering who insists they understand the stock market perfectly despite being perpetually broke. Chances are you've witnessed the Dunning-Kruger Effect in action, the curious, often hilarious, and surprisingly common phenomenon where people with low ability overestimate their competence. The Dunning-Kruger Effect is named after psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger, who conducted a series of fascinating experiments in the late 1990s. They discovered a striking pattern: the less skilled someone is in a particular domain, the more likely they are to overestimate their ability. Conversely, those with true skill often underestimate themselves. In other words, ignorance fuels confidence, while expertise breeds humility. Consider this scenario. Jane is trying to assemble a piece of furniture from IKEA. She has no prior experience and little spatial reasoning skill, yet she confidently claims, "I've got this, I don't need the instructions." Hours later, the dresser is upside down, screws are missing, and Jane is more bewildered than ever. Meanwhile, her friend Mark, who has built hundreds of furniture sets, quietly follows the instructions step by step, aware of potential pitfalls, and completes it flawlessly, but never brags about it. Jane is loud, confident, and completely wrong. Mark is quiet, precise, and completely right. This isn't just anecdotal, it's a cognitive pattern baked into human psychology. So why does this happen? The answer lies in metacognition, our brain's ability to evaluate its own competence. People lacking skill in a domain often also lack the ability to recognize their deficiencies. This double burden leads to inflated confidence. You don't know what you don't know, and because of that, you assume you know more than you do. It's a funny but sobering reminder that confidence is not always a reliable signal of ability. The Dunning-Kruger effect doesn't only exist in furniture assembly or trivial tasks. It shows up in virtually every aspect of life: business, politics, sports, social interactions, and even intelligence itself. Studies have found that in corporate environments, the least competent employees often overrate their performance, while the most competent underestimate their contribution. In classrooms, students with lower grades often predict they scored higher than they did, while top students doubt their performance. Here's where it gets fascinating. The Dunning-Kruger effect creates a natural imbalance in social perception. The loudest voices, fueled by overconfidence, often dominate conversations, boardrooms, and even public discourse. Meanwhile, the truly skilled, aware of complexity and pitfalls, often hesitate to speak with certainty. This dynamic can skew decisions, influence policy, and even affect social hierarchies. It's the psychological reason why people sometimes listen to the wrong person just because they speak confidently. But here's the twist that makes the Dunning-Kruger effect both amusing and practical. Awareness is your superpower. Once you understand this phenomenon, you can spot it in action, not just in others, but in yourself. Recognizing overconfidence allows you to ask smarter questions, seek verification, and remain grounded even in situations where others are confidently misled. Think about your own life. How often have you confidently answered a question only to discover later that you were completely wrong? Maybe it was a trivial trivia question, a technical detail at work, or a strategic decision in business. That fleeting arrogance is a small taste of the Dunning-Kruger effect. Now imagine scaling that over weeks, months, or years, where repeated overestimation can influence careers, relationships, and investments. Understanding this effect isn't just academic, it's survival. There's also a lighter, humorous side. The Dunning-Kruger effect explains why reality TV is so addictive, why social media amplifies bluster over expertise, and why some people give long-winded advice on topics they barely understand. It's not cruelty, it's cognitive science in action, and it gives us a sense of comic relief. We all fall prey to it in some way, whether we admit it or not. But beyond humor, there's a profound lesson. Confidence is valuable, but unchecked confidence can mislead, misdirect, and even harm. Skill without awareness is fragile. Awareness without skill is incomplete. The most powerful combination, competence coupled with humility, and the constant willingness to question assumptions. The truly wise recognize the limits of their knowledge, even while continuing to expand it. So how can you leverage this understanding? First, embrace skepticism toward overconfidence. When someone speaks with absolute certainty, pause and consider whether their claim aligns with evidence or just enthusiasm. Second, cultivate metacognitive awareness in yourself. Regularly check your assumptions, seek feedback, and be willing to admit when you don't know. Third, recognize the role of curiosity. People who ask questions, explore, and experiment rather than just assert tend to learn faster, grow more, and avoid the pitfalls of misplaced confidence. Consider the story of Leo, a young engineer who initially believed he understood coding better than his senior colleagues. He confidently designed modules that were full of subtle errors, but when he embraced feedback and questioned his assumptions, he rapidly improved. Over time, his confidence became calibrated to actual skill, and his contributions far outstripped those of his peers who never questioned themselves. The Dunning-Kruger Effect had been his invisible teacher. It first gave him overconfidence, then humility, then mastery. The beauty of the Dunning-Kruger Effect is that it's not a permanent flaw, it's a pattern that awareness can transform. Every time you recognize overconfidence in yourself or others, you gain the opportunity to learn, to teach, and to grow. Confidence without calibration is a risk. Awareness without action is wasted potential. Together, they create insight, progress, and mastery. And perhaps the most intriguing question lingers: if overconfidence is so common and expertise often disguised by humility, how do we discern who truly knows what they are talking about? The answer is subtle. Look for patterns, ask for evidence, observe past performance, and most importantly, trust systems over claims. Humans are fallible, but structures, processes, and curiosity create reliability where instinct alone cannot. Finally, reflect on yourself. Where are you overconfident? Where do you underestimate your skill? The Dunning-Kruger effect isn't just about others, it's a mirror. Every misplaced certainty, every silent doubt is an opportunity to learn. Because once you grasp this cognitive paradox, life becomes both funnier and far more navigable. You begin to see the invisible currents of confidence and competence that shape conversations, decisions, and even societies. The world is full of confident novices and cautious experts. Recognizing them, calibrating yourself, and embracing curiosity over certainty is how you navigate complexity with wisdom. And as you do, you realize one profound truth. Confidence is a tool, not a measure. Competence is power, not ego. And awareness is the bridge that turns one into the other.